Joining us now is our congressman from the 2nd District of Virginia, the Republican, the one that Kenny Longo says is the most conservative congressman in Virginia. That's Scott Rigell. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Hey, good morning, John. Good to be back. And first, let me thank you for the Valentine's Day reminder. I confess that that wasn't on my radar, so it is now. I appreciate it. Terry will appreciate it that you've reminded me. And listen, I want to give a little shout-out, if I may. I was on the House floor the other day, and my good friend Morgan Griffith, of course, fine congressman from the western part of our Commonwealth, he said, hey, listen, I heard your Rigell Minute on the John Fredericks Show, and that actually surprised me a little bit because he's out of our market. I said, really? You heard? He said, oh, yeah, I listen to the show all the time, and he listens to it online. And I don't know if he's listening this morning. He probably is. But anyway, I was really impressed by that. The show, I think, is continuing to grow, and I respect and appreciate that.
Well, Congressman, we appreciate that, too, and we appreciate your advertising, and thank you so much. And I've got to be heard. I got to be honest, I've heard hundreds of people tell me that they look forward every week to the new Rigell Minute. So
good. It's, I put a lot of thought into it. As you know, it's very difficult. Well, let me say, I'll put it this way: it's challenging to get your thoughts in such a concise format. But it's really good work for me personally to work through these things, and I try to make it substantive, and it's working out real well for us.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Common Sense News Time 717. We're with Republican Congressman from the 2nd District of Virginia, Scott Rigell. By the way, Congressman, before we get into the meat of stuff, I want to tell you that we had in studio on Wednesday one of your predecessors, former Congresswoman Thelma Drake. She was singing your praises.
Oh, listen, she is a fine, fine American. And I'll say it here, but for Thelma, frankly, I wouldn't be serving, John, because she took me to lunch with Terry, and I won't go into the whole story. It'd take too long, but she said, Scott, you ought to run. You should run. And, John, it was not on my radar. And it just wasn't on my radar. But it shows you the importance, whether someone thinks I ought to be serving or not, let's set that aside for a moment. But it shows the importance of recruitment, that, influencing a fellow American to go into a season of public service. It's really struck me how important that is, and I'm committed to doing a better job of that going forward.
Well, she said that when she approached you with it, she told me that story yesterday, Congressman, and she said that your first reaction was, no, you're not going to do that. And she also said that you thought she had invited you to lunch in order to get a check, so you brought your checkbook.
Exactly. She had lost, and John, if you recall, that was January of 2009.
That's right.
She'd lost in November, and really the automobile business and most businesses across the country were imploding.
Right, they were getting hammered.
And we were having a terrible time. And the last thing on my mind was public office, and I was just trying to hold on. And she said some very kind words at lunch with Terry there, and all I could do was change the subject. But it was 3 months later when I heard Mike Huckabee speak, actually, and he talked about the importance of duty and fighting for our country. And I was just mindful of my dad, an Iwo Jima Marine, and his sacrifice. And I thought, good gracious, I was asked to run, and I said no because of our business. What if everybody has that view? Anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that a little bit, because that's just part of my journey of how we got here.
It's certainly interesting. And, I asked Thelma why she simply didn't run again. And she was honest. She said she was tired of it and tired of the grind. And, she had grandchildren coming around and just didn't want to spend that much time. She also said that her husband was kind of getting tired of the whole deal. So that played into it. She also said, quite frankly, she didn't see the wave coming that happened in 2010 either. But hey, it all worked out. She's happy, and we were happy to have the Congresswoman. She spent an hour with us in studio.
Wonderful.
Tuesday.
She's terrific, and I consider her and Terry and I do just dear friends, and I just appreciate her service.
Okay, now if I may, Congressman, let's get to the increase in the debt ceiling, no strings attached. A lot of people kind of shocked that there was no real debate going on, no negotiation. It was just sort of capitulation. Here's my checkbook. I've signed it. It's blank. We're going to print more money. And then your leader, John Boehner, almost flippant on it, was then singing a song. Didn't sit well with a lot of people that are concerned about the fact that we have an $18 trillion debt.
Listen, it didn't sit well with me. There's two things in tension here, and they're really very powerful. One is the absolute need to address the fundamental drivers of our debt, which is the cumulative debt and the trajectory that we're on truly represent an existential threat to our republic, and I believe that. And I think the data makes that clear, that we need to address these things now. And we should have done more. We had time. We had more than 2 weeks. We should have advanced and passed what we thought was best. And then the nation could have seen the clear contrast between those of us who believe we need to act now and those on the other side, overwhelmingly our Democratic colleagues, both House and Senate and the President, who are willing to, let it just kind of, that proverbial kick the can down the road. But that didn't happen, and it wasn't good. And I was actually stunned. We had a conference earlier this week. It was a special session. That's where they get us all together. It was Monday night, and they presented basically a plan and to include the reversal of the COLA account cuts for the military, but that didn't get any traction, and there was no unanimity within the conference. But they still should have passed something on the floor that we could have negotiated with, or at least put forth for the American people to consider.
So, Congressman Rigell, help us understand the thinking of leadership in this. Was it just let's just get this done, get to the midterms, put it behind us? We don't want President Obama
John,
getting.
That's it. I can tell you that the lesson from the shutdown is still reverberating and influencing Washington, and there is this sense that the absolute collapse of the Unaffordable Care Act, the Democratic Party is reeling from this. Frankly, the American people are. And there was, I think, a conscious decision, to not interfere with that, basically to not take that off the front burner. And now, look, I'm not going to defend the speaker in this, but I will give you what I think is his view, because he articulated it several times, both privately and publicly, that given that we were not able to get behind something, it's very likely that the Senate, we're not the only actor in this, and we're not the only influence, and the Senate would have, in all likelihood, kind of done one of these last-minute deals where we negotiate, nothing gets done, we're on the precipice of not being able to have the liquidity necessary to pay all of our bills, and then they'd send over something that we didn't like a continuation of, extension of maybe long-term unemployment or something like that, that we have some reforms to all that. They wouldn't agree to that. That's what they were concerned about. So,
do you think the speaker is going to be able to maintain his status going forward as speaker?
Well, the qualifier here is that we're into pure speculation.
Yes.
He hasn't texted me or talked to me about this, but this is some general discussion taking place in Washington. So what I'm sharing with you is pretty much public knowledge, is that there's some question as to, is he going to run again? And if he does, would he then, I can't imagine that he'd run again and not, want to be speaker. I don't think that would happen. But there is, I do not detect, even though many conservatives, myself included, were not happy with where we are now. If we come back into the fall with a strong majority in the House, which I think is the most likely outcome at this point, things could change, but right now I see that. And I think in some ways, John, if you just look at through it a political prism, if we can do that for just a moment, I think it did elevate the likelihood, or at least removed a potential impediment to taking the Senate. That's probably the underlying logic. And I just don't sense a revolt here among the conservatives, because, well, many conservatives, the most ardent in the House, were actually recommending that we let the Democrats own this, which is essentially what happened.
Okay, fair enough. If I may, we've only got a couple more minutes, Congressman Rigell. I want to move to one of the good things that happened yesterday is the cost of living adjustment for military veterans and other federal workers got solved.
That's correct.
Explain that to us.
Well, it was a part that was unpalatable to me of the Murray-Ryan agreement, but in the overall context of that, the advantages of approving it, I voted for that agreement, and I'm glad that I did. I knew, though, that we needed to address this, and I started, along with many others, and really on a bipartisan basis, to say this was not wise. And we advanced legislation in the House. The Senate, as I understand it, they agreed to it. The President will sign it into law. So this has been taken care of. What the people that I have the privilege to serve and represent overwhelmingly are telling me, and I think the American people generally are saying, look, when we start addressing mandatory spending, it needs to be more on a comprehensive basis and not this perception that we take in one group in particular, and notably our veterans who have given so much. We're still in Afghanistan 13 years later,
right?
And so on, and just pick out one group and make that adjustment. It didn't sit well with the American people. It didn't sit well with me, and I'm glad it's been reversed. Final
question, Congressman Rigell. We're with Scott Rigell, Republican congressman from the 2nd District of Virginia. Give us an update on Virginia coastal energy. I know you guys had a meeting on this the other day. What went down?
I had a briefing. John, not to toot my own horn here, but we really are leading this, and what a privilege it is. It's appropriate for us to lead this, given that our incredible district, the 2nd District, goes all the way from the Maryland line down to the North Carolina line.
Right.
And so we had a number of our colleagues come in representing both parties with a briefing of the outside organization that kind of walked everyone through where we are on this. We are waiting. We are right on the verge of hearing from the administration whether the environmental impact study is going to meet the test, and I trust and hope that it will, because it has, once this thing gets in motion, 25,000 life-changing jobs, John, that create new revenue and really give hope to people in Hampton Roads. It diversifies our economy. And I've been to Louisiana. I've been to the Port Fourchon area. Their economy is vibrant. They're excited and glad that they have this opportunity. And we're going to get a group from that area. They are really good people. They've offered to come up to our region, and we're getting a group of leading community and business leaders there to come up to the Hampton Roads area to help our region understand and continue to rally behind this opportunity.
Well, we are out of time, but we will get into it when we have you back next week, because I think this is the new coming issue that people are going to be very, very interested in. And, quite frankly, Republicans are all over the spectrum on it. You've got the I normally align myself with the chamber. I mean, I love creating jobs. I love free enterprise. If I see a shovel in dirt, I'm excited. I like roads, but I completely break with the chamber on this. And so you can't even define where people are on it. So when we have you back next week, we can go into it in some detail.
I look forward to it. It's an important topic, and I appreciate the opportunity to walk through it with you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.